is if you find yourself in a situation where your portfolio, your life, whatever it is too volatile, ask yourself, without abandoning ship, how can I try to build, rebuild, or reorganize my portfolio or my life or whatever it may be into a way that reduces some of the volatility. Welcome to another episode of Money Therapy. I'm your host, Brandon Chasteen, and this is
Bill McGill.
Bill McGill. Thanks for being on. Thanks for your time. Thank you guys for your time. We are excited to talk to you today because this is something that I think is not. I mean, it's relevant because I think every single person that I have ever worked with, has struggled to accept the fact that sometimes things are volatile.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are shaky.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are storms that we have to go through, and it doesn't feel good.
Right.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But we oftentimes forget that we've experienced these things, or we remember the experiences sometimes, but sometimes we forget the sensation.
Yeah.
And we kind of just normalize these tumultuous times in our investment world.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when we feel it again, it just rocks us.
Rocks the boat.
Rocks the boat, which is kind of the idea that I had here was inside of the ocean, right? If you go and you travel, you take a trip, you go to the ocean, waves are normal.
Yes.
Still water, flat water is not normal.
It's not.
Right? But sometimes there are periods where the ocean doesn't have a lot of waves to it. And if we stand inside that calm water long enough, we might start to think this is normal.
Sure.
But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So when that one normal wave comes to us, we're like, oh, what was that?
Sure.
That's scary, right? But we're only shocked by the normal wave because we've been in abnormal times.
Sure.
Right? People a lot of times decide to come back into the investment game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's talk about normal human behavior. An uncoached person without a lot of expertise behind them. Mm-hmm. Guys, I need to take a step back. If I walk down this street right now, outside my office, Main Street, Franklin, Tennessee, people are always there, and I just randomly stopped and said, hey, buy high, sell low, markets go up and down. People would be like, yep, that's true. That's true. They know this stuff in their head. Mm-hmm. But the normal person cannot have the wherewithal to maintain an appropriate amount of risk in their portfolio.
Right.
We struggle with things like fear and greed. And then all of a sudden, things get scary, aka low, and we sell. Right? But then all of a sudden, everybody's talking about how the market's doing so well and they're returning so much money, they're making so much money, my portfolio is up, blah, blah, blah. So what do? We buy back in.
Yeah.
We buy high.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The reality is that the next time we come back in, we forget the feeling of loss.
Yeah.
Or we don't give it the right kind of weight or merit, and just that greed sets in, and we just constantly set ourselves up to lose. And the thing is we all know this.
Right.
Everybody listening to this right now is like, yeah, I can totally understand. I get it. Buy high, sell low. Like what Warren Buffett say, be greedy when everybody is fearful and fearful when everybody's greedy. Mm-hmm. These things make sense, but
buy low, sell high.
Did I say it up backwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
You killed the quote though.
Man.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So the point is, though, is one, what Bill said, buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
But the other point is like when we are really like in it, what we know and what we feel are two very different things.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, I love this title to kind of take it a step back and from a little more practical point of view. The immediate thing that I think of is, the title is volatility is normal. And when I say it like that, a lot of people, their first inclination is to kind of pull back a little bit and be like, what are you talking about? Because if you look at the economy that we've had in the last, year and a half, 2 years now, it's been very volatile, or people would perceive it as being very volatile. The 5 years leading up to that, if you look at the charts and everything, easy peasy sailing.
Yeah.
Economy looked like it was doing great. Everybody's 401ks are going up. Everybody got used to that. And now we're in this, again, a perceived volatile time. And what we'll kind of show later here is from a numbers perspective, we're kind of hitting on the emotional side here, but from a numbers perspective, it's normal. It's very normal. In fact, we've been in periods of volatility forever.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that. They get used to the water temperature. They get used to what's going on. And they also, we're going to talk this, later on in another episode, but they also, get busy listening to all the noise, and you can forget what's actually normal. I talk to people all the time from a numbers perspective that on average, the market goes down from its peak 10% once a year on average.
Yeah.
And people don't, when the market comes down 2 or 3%, I get calls. They're like, hey, what do you think's going on with the market? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, listen, like
that was just a Tuesday, man.
yeah, for this thing to come down 10%, then recover, and then, you look at the averages of the S&P 500 over 40 or 50 years, and, we'll call it 8 to 10% for lack of numbers right here in front of me. But think about that. It goes down by 10% on average once a year, and it still comes back enough to give us an 8 to 10% return.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, it went down 2%. I expect it to come down more sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to happen, neither do you. We all know these things.
And again, common knowledge, don't time the market, right?
And don't time the market, but it's the perspective that keeps it in check. And I tell people all the time, and you really want to say it again with emphasis, is volatility is normal. It's going to happen. The best thing that you can do as an investor is, be greedy when others are fearful, and, be fearful when others are greedy. Stick to a game plan. And, I think we're going to show.
Well, let's jump in. Let's talk about some of these numbers.
Yeah, let's talk about the numbers.
So one of the things that measures volatility in the market, an instrument, is the VIX. If you've watched any kind of financial news, you've heard about the VIX, the volatility index.
Sure.
So the VIX was an instrument that was really dialed in. The calculations were kind of created. This became kind of a thing back in the 90s.
Sure.
So we did some numbers. All right. So first of all, the VIX is obviously the higher the number that the equation produces, the higher the volatility. Okay.
Sure.
Just some benchmarks here. 12 on the VIX is considered low volatility. Okay. 20 on the VIX is considered times of increased volatility. Mm-hmm. 30 on the VIX indicates like, hey, we're in some sort of like panic or trouble. And then there has been like a 2008 crisis time. The VIX was at like 79, so just shy of 80 to put it in perspective. Okay.
Okay.
So what we did kind of in prep here was I went back to the first year of the VIX and measured it through 2022. And we took the annualized average volatility score of each year. We added them all together.
Yeah.
And then we divided. So we created an average of the average VIX for every year.
Sure.
And that average was a 19.
Yeah.
Okay, 20 indicates high.
Yeah.
according to like things you can Google. If you Google the normal, like average, like what is the VIX or
Average scale.
like it's going to say like 20 is indicative of a higher time of increased volatility.
Sure.
The average over 32 years
32 years. Yeah.
was 19.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is wild.
That actually surprised me when I did that math. Right now, today, at least during show prep earlier this morning, the VIX was at 13.5. So, like right now, there's a lot of people listening that are like, they hear the, to your point, the noise, and we're going to have a whole nother episode on noise.
Yeah.
But they hear all the time that, the economy's doing this. We hear from people and friends, but we're hearing stuff that actually was truer last year.
Yeah.
Right? And the point is that we got kind of used to high volatility last year.
Yeah.
And so now this norm is kind of like, wait, what's going on? But it could be that we get used to a 13.5. So when the 32-year average of 19 comes back,
Yeah.
arguably normal,
Yeah.
we're going to be like, oh, what's rocking the boat?
Yeah.
Well, guys, this is the average over the past 32 years. This is normal.
Yeah.
What we're feeling right now today, there's like consumer sentiment came out today. It was an upside surprise. I forget the exact number, but I think it was 6 points higher than what people had marked as what they expected.
Sure.
Which is a big upside surprise. It was a lot higher than what people thought it was going to be. Sentiment, people out in the world are feeling pretty good about things right now.
Starting to get more confident, and you can feel that too.
But but here's the thing: people are at the ocean, standing in still waters,
yeah.
and people are like, this is nice.
Yeah.
We were talking in show prep, and it's like I just took a vacation to the beach, and it's like, you could go out and stand in the ocean and have a drink in your hand one day, and you're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And then you try to do that the next day, and you just get pushed over and you spill your drink in the ocean because, hey, it's back to normal.
Yeah.
The wave shocked me, but
Yeah.
I went to the beach. Why on earth would a wave at the ocean shock me?
Yeah.
It's because I wasn't prepared. Because I thought what I experienced on day one was going to be the norm.
Yeah.
That wasn't true.
Yeah, I think the big word here that's popping into my head is perspective. And I think that the one thing that we try to help clients with and coach them through situations like this is we are constantly giving perspective to keep the emotions in check and to give them that sense of, oh, yeah, okay, that this is normal or this does make sense. One of the things that came to mind during show prep, we talked about this a little bit last week, was, interest rates and mortgage rates have gone up recently. And, they were at 2.5% a couple of years ago. They were as low as, 2.25%, 2.5%. They're now up above 6. They're at 6.5, 7. And a common conversation that I'm having with clients is, one question is, when are they going to go back down? I'm like, I don't know that they're going to go back down, first of all. And the other common thing, the most common thing that they say is, man, mortgage rates are really, really high right now. They're really high. Like, they're so high, right?
Yeah.
And for that person, especially if you're, 20, 25 years old or, 25 to 30 looking to buy your first house, this is the highest it's ever been in your life for the most part.
Right.
And especially in the time of your life that you've been paying attention to interest
Sure,
rates.
that's fair.
Right, at like 17 or 18, what's an interest rate, right? Like nobody knows that. But I always bring up with clients, well, let's take a look back at 1980. Interest rates were above 18%.
Mm-hmm.
So they came down from that peak all the way to 2.5, and now they've upticked to 6. So yeah, I don't know if they're coming back down.
Right.
They may not. It would be great if they did. Everybody really likes it when they come down. But that doesn't mean 6% is high.
Right.
Right? And
It's relative.
It's all relative. It's all perspective. So
It's that the human nature or the human behavior there that we've talked about many times on the show is recency bias, right?
yes.
And so it's just this nature of our most recent experiences are the most prolific in our mind. We can recall the feelings associated with the most recent things in our life. I don't remember the feeling of, things in my life. I have memories of, but the feeling is gone from things 30 years ago. But I remember how I felt last year during volatility. I remember how I felt through COVID when interest rates were like 0 to 3% on things, when money was just free.
Yeah. And I think it's funny how, just as an observation, I think it's funny how you can be in the exact same position, but your feelings completely reversed depending on perspective. So, just take us 5 years ago, in terms of real estate, buying and selling or selling your house. The average house on the market was on market for about 90 days. It was about 3 months. And so if your house, you put it on the market and 3 weeks later it sold, you were stoked, right? You were like, holy crap, that took no time at all. I got a great offer. We accepted. It was clean, done. Well, we all know in the last 2 to 3 years, these houses go up, have 8 offers by sundown. They're accepting the next day. I mean, just craziness, right? Well, I talked to a client the other day who was putting their house on the market. And they're like, yeah, it's been on the market for 3 weeks. I'm starting to get really nervous. And I'm like, are you really? I mean, but it's understandable because of that recency bias. But same position, right? Things are kind of coming back to normal. We're seeing houses on the market for a month, 2 months. It's becoming much, much more common. The market has totally slowed down. So, 3 weeks in the one thing, they're stoked. 3 weeks in the other, they're panicking. Should I take my house off the market and then put it back on? All those things. So, again, just to reiterate the perspective that we try and have with clients when we're having these conversations about volatility.
Yeah, and I think that it's just so important for people out there. A couple like points that need to be driven home here is volatility is a normal part of the story. If you go to the ocean, expect the waves, and guess what? Even sometimes while you're at the ocean, storms happen.
Yeah,
that is normal. It's a normal part. Nobody wants to be in a storm forever.
Yeah,
but and normally you're not in a storm forever. But guess what? When you're going through life, storms come up.
Sure.
And the last thing that you want to do when you're in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the ocean, is jump off the boat.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're in this and you're doing this stuff on your own, you have to just accept the fact, and I think you need to tell yourself probably daily, is volatility is normal, right? And if you're working with someone, if you're working with me, if you're working with Bill, if you're working with someone else, it's human nature to not love volatility.
Right.
Right? It can cause anxiety, it can cause fear, it can convince you to make decisions that can be disastrous for your future.
Yeah.
So if you're working with someone, rely on that partnership. And I think, clients call me all the time and we got to talk them kind of off a ledge. And I'm okay with that. I want my clients to call me. I want it. Yeah. I don't care if it's the smallest, silliest, like sense of anxiousness or fear, or if it's completely unwarranted. Clients have called me like, hey, this might seem silly, but I was watching something on TV and then this thing just got stuck in my head. Like what would happen if?
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to understand that volatility is normal. Storms come and go, but guys, to drive this home again, high volatility by measure of the VIX starts around 20. 19 is the 32-year average. There's going to be volatility in your portfolio. The way to get around some of this is first of all, you really can't eliminate it if you're exposing yourself to potential return, right? Risk is measured because we're trying to achieve something that we can't do by ourselves.
Sure.
Right? If I want to eliminate volatility, I open up a savings account.
Yeah.
There's other risk associated with that, but volatility isn't the risk.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can't stomach it, I look for things that are low volatility or no volatility. But we can always be more risk appropriate, and I think that is the last piece that I want to drive home is if you find yourself in a situation where your portfolio, your life, whatever it is too volatile, ask yourself, without abandoning ship, how can I try to build, rebuild, or reorganize my portfolio or my life or whatever it may be into a way that reduces some of the volatility. When I went to the beach on vacation, I was on a boat. We were doing some fishing, and there were certain parts of the boat where like if like a couple guys were getting a little nauseous at a couple points in time, and the captain was like, "Hey, just go stand here. You'll have the wind will pick up. It's a little bit better. You can see the horizon on the back of the boat, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So stand here, look at the horizon, do this, this, and this."
Yeah.
They didn't abandon ship. They just made a couple tiny adjustments and to try to solve some of the feeling, the symptoms of increased volatility.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say is, this is what we do for a living. So if you have a financial professional, ask them, is there a way to reduce volatility in my picture without jumping off the boat?
Yeah.
Or maintain the same, growth that, that's the end all be all in our industry, is reduce risk and increase gains. Right. Or reach out to us. Right. Again, that's what we do, is don't jump off the roller coaster. Do not abandon ship, but there's plenty of adjustments that can be made in terms of volatility and that sort of thing, and trying to mitigate that.
Yeah. And I would say, just through risk mitigation, talking specifically to a portfolio, if a portfolio is designed and it's 10 out of 10 risk, and let's just say hypothetically that portfolio is going to average a 10% return.
Yeah.
Right. And let's say you need to cut out some of that risk because you can't stomach that ride.
Yeah.
So you cut it down to a 5 out of 10. And theoretically, you're going to get 5% a year. And you're like, well, I don't want to give up 5% of potential returns. I'm telling you right now, prioritize being risk appropriate, because a 5% return instead of 10, and you're comfortable with it, is a game that you're going to stick to.
Yes.
It's a plan that you're going to stick to, and it's going to give you the confidence to make the right behavioral decisions day to day, month to month.
Yes.
What would be terrible is to put all eggs in one cart, be 10 out of 10, trying to get that 10%, but then all of a sudden the market comes down and you make poor behavioral decisions, sell low. Now all of a sudden you're not only not making 5, you're losing and locking in, and you're abandoning ship in the middle of the storm. You've crashed.
Yeah, you're probably going to make way more money getting 5%.
Yeah.
And by the way, 5% is a heck of a lot better than a savings account.
Sure.
So we talked about, so no volatility. There's a trade-off with everything.
Go to our website, harpethwealthpartners.com. Check out on the bottom of that landing page, there's a video there that is a Riskalyze, and they just changed their name. They're going through a name change. Nitrogen. So Riskalyze is the tool, or nitrogen. Watch that video. There's a quick button you can click on to take you to a questionnaire, so we can start to build a risk profile for you. Bill and I both will do any kind of risk profiling, not only of you, but of your current portfolio, to make sure those things are aligned. We'll do that to you, and there's no cost for that. Yep. Because we want to do everything that we can to prevent the possibility of you making behavioral mistakes that are easily avoidable. We can't control the markets. We can't promise returns. We can't do anything in that sense. All we can do is lay the framework to hopefully empower you to make the best decisions for you, but also to be the best, to behave the right way for your portfolio. So tools free, harpethwealthpartners.com, landing page, scroll to the bottom, nitrogen/Riskalyze video, watch it, check it out. Anything you got?
Just like and subscribe.
And
listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple.
Or any platform, really. Just search money therapy.
And share it with a friend, too.
We like shares.
We do.
We love shares.
All
right, we'll put all that stuff in the show notes, too. You can find that link to our website. You can find a link to my email. If you want the show notes on a Sunday before the show comes out, send me your email. Just send me an email, and we'll get you we'll get you subscribed to the Sunday series. The Sunday series will let you think about our topic before we talk about it, and then you can hear us talk. I promise you'll learn better that way.
Yep.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Adios.
We hope you learned something valuable today. We appreciate you including us in your journey towards financial betterment. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes only and not to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions about how it might be uniquely applicable to you, please discuss that with a financial professional, or, of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you about your specific questions, needs, or circumstances. We welcome you to reach out to us via our website, harpethwealthpartners.com, or by emailing Brandon at bmc@harpethwealthpartners.com. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not to be intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult appropriate qualified professionals prior to making a decision. Investing includes risk, including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. We want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back next week.